This episode of GMspiration is brought to you by Fowler's Bird Supplies. Got a pesky peregrine or rascally rosella? Can't find the right feed for your feathered friend? Come on down to Fowler's Bird Supplies. We cater for all bird breeds, and I mean all. Need sardines for your kingfisher? Ox bones for your bearded vulture? Perhaps blue-footed booby blood for your vampire finches? Come on down to the Fowlers. You think a group of crows have set these prices, because frankly, they've been murdered. Come on down to Fowlers today.
The image of a bird soaring through the sky is powerful. It can represent freedom, frailty, even peace. In movies and games, birds are often used to great effect as plot devices, challenges, or to help you journey to new frontiers. Hi, and welcome to GMspiration. I'm Harley, and in this episode we're going to dive into some of the weird and wonderful birds that exist in the world. I'm not going to go into symbolism and religion for this video. There's simply too much to cover in one. So instead, I'm going to focus on the biology of birds. Some of the weird and wonderful things that you can use to inspire you. So let's define first what a bird is. They're vertebrates, warm-blooded, with toothless beaks, feathers, and lay eggs. Most but not all bird species can fly. Why did I say bird species and not most birds? Well, that's because the chicken population dwarfs all others, with an estimated 25 billion chickens worldwide. To put it in perspective, the next most common is 1.5 billion, which is the red-bellied quail, native to Africa. While chickens can technically fly, it's more of a frantic flapping that only covers short distances. Already we've hit one false idea about birds. By numbers, most birds can't soar through the sky. So to nail down the edges of what birds are and what they can do, let's go with some extremes. As I go through this, I'll drop in a few questions and my own suggestions for how you might use these for your fantasy worlds. But of course, like always, hopefully simply discussing the birds gives you ideas. First, let's start with the male peafowl, also called a peacock. They're known for their extravagant plumage, which they display as part of a courtship dance with females. The distinctive eyes and vibrant colours have amazed people over the centuries, with them often being kept as extravagant pets. Now the peahen, the female of the species, is far less colourful. This is quite common for a lot of birds, with the males brightly coloured to help attract females. What if you applied this to dragons? Through the sky, high above you flies a male dragon, with 24 feet of glistening green, golden, purple plumage trailing behind them. Peacocks can also vibrate their tails, causing it to shake in an almost hypnotic pattern. You could make other fantasy birds that are also able to dance or shake, causing similar hypnotic effects. From giant tails to giant beaks, next we have the sword-billed hummingbird. Among the larger species of hummingbirds, adults are between 13 and 14 centimeters, or 5.1 to 5.5 inches long, excluding the bill, and weigh about 10 to 15 grams. The most distinctive feature, as you've probably guessed it, is the enormous bill, which is 8 to 12 centimeters or 3.1 to 4.7 inches. The bill is the largest with respect to body of any bird. These birds use their long beaks to drink nectar, with the beak able to travel down to the base of the flower. Some other similarly long beaked birds like the kingfishers use them for hunting, but their beaks are thicker, stronger, and not quite as long. While birds can't regenerate their beaks, there's nothing stopping you from crossing them with rodents that have teeth that grow constantly. Imagine a fantasy bird that constantly needs to grind down its beak, with it getting longer and sharper over time. If they break, the beak is simply sharpened back to a point, and it's just shorter for a while. This would allow your fantasy birds to dive bomb and stab people. We can take this even further. Some birds can use simple tools like picking up rocks. Maybe we could go really evil here. What if a species of bird purposely broke off their beaks into targets? What if they learnt that if they poke that colourful tree frog over there, their prey just sort of drops dead? If these long big bills were more like antlers, they might also drop off, being shed every year. Perhaps those blow darts are actually thin, sharpened bird beaks. Sticking with interesting bills, we have the shoebill. This is a large, long-legged wading bird, with its name coming from its enormous shoe-shaped bill. Typical height range from 110 to 140 centimeters, or 43 to 53 inches. They are mostly silent, but sometimes perform bill clattering, hitting their bill together to make a sound. The shoebill can be found in poorly oxygenated waters like swamps and marshes. There, fish surface to breathe and are easier to catch. These birds look prehistoric, like the ancient terror birds. We're going to butcher their pronunciation of this. Phorusrhacids, with one such species weighing up to 350 kilograms. Phorusrhacids are the inspiration for the axe-beaked creature in D&D. If you ever want to imagine what giant predatory birds look like, look up the shoebill and then just imagine them being 2, 3, 4 times the size. You're pretty close. Speaking of odd bills, we also have the spoonbill. This bird has a hard and large, flat, spoon-shaped bill. They walk through shallow waters with their bill partially open, moving from side to side. The moment any small aquatic creature, such as a fish, crustacean, etc., touches the inside of their bill, they snap it shut, catching the creature. These specially made bills are absolutely fascinating. How might other shaped bills be used? What if there are ridges or grill-like shape that allow them to strain water through the bill? Could they stand in streams, simply catching things that flow down into them? Normally, we see bird beaks as either long and sharp or broad and short. But this is completely different shape. Absolutely fascinating. What might a fork-shaped bill be used for? How might a bird use that to their advantage? Perhaps straining water. Think of different shapes and then think how they might be used. Is it sometimes impractical? Sure, but the world is full of impractical things that still exist. You arrive at a small town and you notice that the marketplace is selling identical looking spoons and forks. As you go to the inn, you're served on the same ones. The spoons are a little bit flat, but for the thick porridge you're eating, they're fine. You find out later that most of the farmers around here raise spoonbills and forkbills. They harvest the bills, clean them up, shave away any imperfections, and then sell them. They're cheap, effective, and the meat on the bird is quite tasty too. Sticking with impressive beaks, the helmeted hornbill, or the Rhinoplax vigil, is a very large bird in the hornbill family. It is found in the Malay Peninsula, Sumatra, Borneo, Thailand, and Myanmar. The casque, or the helmet-like structure across its head, counts for some 11% of its 3-kilo weight. For the helmeted hornbill, this casque is almost solid, and it's used in head-to-head combat amongst males. It is believed among the Pun Bar that a large helmeted hornbill guards the river between life and death. So straight off, we have a flying, head-butting bird. Generally, the main weapons birds have are their claws or beaks, but here we have developed, admittedly for mating, a unique natural weapon. These birds would make a fantastic mount in fantasy worlds. In the air, they might ram targets, with the riders carefully holding on as they bash into each other. If I was running an airship campaign, I could see these birds being an interesting part. This bird only weighs 3 kilos, but what if we kicked that up to, say, 20 kilos? A sort of medium-sized dog. They could ram then with significant force. Why might ramming on an airship be useful? Well, gravity. One might ram boarders to knock them off. A swarm, in the wild, or even domesticated, might attack ships attempting to knock people off. Mounted guns tend to be at the edge of the ship, and a 5-foot shove might be enough just to knock someone overboard. You may even have flocks of wild helmeted hornbills that attack ships, knocking crew overboard before retreating and coming back to eat the crew that have fallen off and landed on the ground below. Nature can be quite scary, and in fantasy worlds, even more so. Speaking about dropping things from large heights, this brings me to the bearded vulture. This bird species specializes in eating bones, with it making up 90% of their diet. To get into bigger bones, they'll fly high into the air and then drop them onto rocks, smashing them apart. The bearded vulture demonstrates a behavior that we don't see too much in fantasy and D&D games. Any large creature with flying can pick up someone and carry them into the air and then drop them. For players with featherfall or are more high-leveled, this may just be a little bit of annoyance, but the tension of having a player being flown 80 feet into the air is quite exquisite. Now, for the bearded vulture to digest their diet of bones, they also have very highly acidic stomach acid, around a pH of 1. This is strong enough to dissolve bone in about 24 hours and will cause severe chemical burns if applied to the skin, with symptoms like redness, pain, blisters, and peeling skin. Now, what if a vulture could vomit acid onto its prey? Terrifying. Sticking with vultures, we also have the turkey vulture, a scavenger that feeds almost exclusively on carrion. Lacking the vocal organ, their only vocalizations are grunts or low hisses. The visual aspect of the vulture is what stands out more than anything else. They're bald, with red skin, and a rather fearsome appearance. It's believed this is a survival advantage that helps them stay clean and regulate their body temperature. The lack of feathers prevents bacteria and blood from getting trapped, which could cause infections, and the bare skin makes it easier for them to stay cool and conserve heat. They've certainly inspired rather far-reaching design choices, from the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal to Warhammer 40k's Chaos God of Change, Tzeentch. Moving on to a very different type of bird, we have the Frigate Bird. Females have white underbellies, while males have a distinctive red gular pouch, which they inflate during the breeding season to attract males, sort of similar to a frog. The gular pouch is seen in other birds, most notably the pelican. Their wings are long and pointed and can span up to 2.3 meters or 7.5 feet, and it has the largest wing area to body mass ratio of any other bird. So we've got large wings and inflatable pouch. You might give such a fantasy bird the ability to inflate and then release. This could be some sort of sonic attack, the ability to change direction with a sudden puff of air, or maybe simply stay aloft longer by inflating their body and reducing their density, sort of like a bird balloon. If they live near or in water, they may also be able to pick it up and spray it. Friggy, use water gun. Well, I joke, but there is actually a Frigate Bird Pokemon, Kilowattrel, the Frigate Bird Pokemon. The colours are changed from red to yellow, and it's an electric type, but it inflates its pouch in the same way. And, well, they just called it a Frigate Bird. Moving to another type of bird that would make a perfect Pokemon, the Secretary Bird. It's a large terrestrial bird with an eagle-like head and body on a crane-like legs. It stands about 1.3 meters or 4 foot 3 inches tall. The Secretary Bird hunts mostly on the ground. It eats a variety of prey, including snakes. They can flush out their prey by stomping on the ground and then chasing after them with their wings spread and striking quickly with their feet. Already, this bird has the makings of a fantastical creature. Just make it a little bit bigger. They'll make amazing mounts, able to run quickly and fly short distances over obstacles. They could kick enemies and could pin them under their feet. As a fantasy creature, they might dance around, quickly striking with precision kicks. If I started this up as D&D, I would certainly give it a kick attack and probably movement that doesn't provoke opportunity attacks, with it moving faster on foot than if it were flying. If I was feeling really evil, I may also give it monk-like abilities like Stunning Strike. I generally don't stun players, instead using a condition called Dazed, where they can only use one of their movement, action or bonus action on their turns. You could start with the Axebeak stat block, increase its dexterity and AC, change attack to dex rather than strength, add flyby from the owl but change it to all movement, and then add a con save or be dazed on kicks. Perfect. Sticking with interesting feet, the Jacanas, sometimes referred to as Jesus birds or lily trotters, have large, elongated toes and toenails that allow them to spread their weight out and walk across aquatic vegetation such as lily pads. The female Jacanidae are larger, and several of the species maintain harems of males in the breeding season, with males incubating eggs and taking care of chicks. The males carrying around their chicks has led to some amazing photos. In this image, a male is carrying around at least 4 chicks with their legs hanging down to make it look like the male has many tiny legs hanging off it. You can imagine this leading to some really interesting myths about this bird. In my messing with size video, I mentioned how the easiest way to make something fantastical is to increase its size. So, the giant Jacanidae. Using its massive feet, it's able to walk across marshlands with ease. Its diet consists of giant spiders, crocodiles, and giant leeches. It carries around its young and will sometimes drop them so they can feed on giant spider nests together. The giant Jacanidae are often domesticated and used for transport, but the females are often too difficult to domesticate. The giant Jacanidae that live on the edges of the Marsh of Despair have developed a diet of undead that wander south. From feet specially designed for walking to one designed for killing. The southern cassowary, also known as the Australian cassowary, is a large flightless bird. The female is larger and more brightly coloured. Their feet have 3 toes, with the inner toe sporting a dagger-like claw up to 12 centimeters or 4.7 inches. It is tied as the 3rd heaviest bird on Earth and is theorized to reach up to 85 kilos or 187 pounds and 190 centimeters or 6 feet 3 inches tall. Absolutely terrifying. When I played Far Cry 3, the most dangerous thing on that island was by far the cassowary. I could take out a fort of soldiers, but if one of those things got the jump on me, I was panicking. This bird weighs up to 85 kilos, more than some fully grown humans, has 2 12-centimeter daggers that it can thrust into you with all that weight behind it. I don't even know if you need to make a fantasy version of the thing to make it terrifying. Moving on to the largest and heaviest bird, we have the common ostrich. The males are 2.1 to 2.75 meters tall, or 6 foot 11 to 9 foot tall, and weigh between 100 and 130 kilos, or 220 to 290 pounds. It has a long, dark neck and legs, and can run at 55 kilometers an hour, or 34 miles per hour. It has a sprint speed of up to 70 kilometers an hour, or 43 miles per hour. This is the fastest land speed of any bipedal animal. The common ostrich diet consists mainly of plant matter, though it does eat invertebrates and small reptiles. It lives on nomadic groups between 5 and 50 birds, and when threatened, they will either hide itself by lying flat against the ground or run away. If cornered though, it can attack with powerful kicks. Moving from the fastest land bird to the fastest bird, and indeed the fastest member of the animal kingdom, the peregrine falcon. It has a diving speed of over 300 kilometers an hour or 190 miles per hour. It's a large, crow-sized falcon. It has a blue-grey back, barred white underparts, and a black head. The females are larger than the males by up to 30%, and it uses this tremendous speed to hunt other birds. The peregrine falcon uses a hunting swoop that involves it flying high into the air and then diving down at tremendous speed, hitting one of the wings of its prey. This disables the prey while not dealing damage to the bird itself. With its prey disabled, it then finishes it off. From air to water, the Gentoo penguin is the fastest swimmer of all birds, reaching speeds of up to 36 kilometers or 22 miles per hour. The Gentoo's diet is high in salt, so much so that it would normally lead to issues within the penguin. Gentoos have developed a salt gland located above their eyes that takes the high concentration of sodium within the body and produces a highly saline concentrated solution that drips out of their body on the tip of their beak. Imagine if such a bird lived in more toxic areas, let's say high in sulfur. They might drip out concentrated sulfur onto the ground. If they lived in deadly poisonous marshes with natural toxins, perhaps the locals collect the excretions from them. This could be used to make all manner of medicine, toxins, poisons, maybe tars or other treatments for things like wood and leather. Given their speed, maybe they could be used as mounts for underwater races, like sea elves. Following on from the standard way that penguins shoot themselves out of the water onto ice, perhaps a sea elf raiding party might shoot out of the water onto the decks of ships. We've covered a lot of birds today, and we've gone through how they specialize to unique diets, hunting methods, and environments, from incredibly fast and nimble through to highly specialized physical characteristics. There's certainly a lot more to cover in birds. We've only just scratched the surface, but I'm going to end it here today. Thank you for listening to this episode of GMspiration. I hope you create some truly fantastical and probably terrifying birds, and always remember to have fun.